Guys, this is the third time I'm starting over. And for all of you who know my channel, who know me a bit, I tend to do these videos just unedited, uncut, and just very easy and laid back. I want to talk about headphones today, and I have so much experience with headphones, and it's such a broad subject for me that it's hard for me to really capture it nicely in one video. There's so much I want to talk about, but every time I try to prepare something, it doesn't come out right either. So, okay, things I want to touch upon in this video. First of all, headphones have been my main way of making music. I've worked in fancy studios with speakers, shitty studios with speakers, but that was also always when I was working with somebody. From the very start of my audio career, I have been working with headphones as a main thing. They are my frame of reference, they are my DNA, and they are my absolute love within high fidelity sound and low fidelity sound, everything. Yeah, I just knew that I wanted to make a video talking about headphones, and I hope and I trust that the right information will be in here for people who care about headphones, who make music on headphones or are looking to get into making music on headphones, whatever. I hope the stuff is in here for you. I will try to touch upon many subjects, maybe going through blah, 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 a lot of blah, 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 but it's only because I think like so much time of the last 15 years for me have been spent thinking about my headphone systems and how I work on them. And to put me as an authority, I have over 4 billion streams on Spotify. And I think 3 billion of those streams are thanks to the Neumann NDH-20s that are laying here, my absolute desert island headphones. So if numbers mean anything to you, I have done real work on headphones. I have done actual things. First of all, I love headphones. It's also my hobby. It's an obsession. I watch a lot of YouTubers. My first headphone YouTuber was Z Reviews. I watch a lot of the Headphone Show. Wonderful guys, it seems. Yeah, many headphone YouTubers I watch. If you're a headphone YouTuber, I've probably watched your videos. So first of all, thank you all headphone YouTubers. You're the best. I really care about you. Here's my perspectives on headphones. And as I said, I only mentioned the numbers of the streaming stuff I've done because I want to put out there. I'm a working professional. I have worked on headphones. And as I said earlier, I think what makes my perspective unique is that they are my main way of listening to music and making music. And I don't know any other producers out there that... I know a lot of producers that work on headphones, but I don't know many producers that care as much about headphones and work on them mainly. I sit in this precise middle ground of caring a lot about sound quality and having headphones as my main driver for 15 years. That's as long as I've been making electronic music or music electronically. Let's hang out. Let's talk about them. As I said, I trust I will come to the right information within these videos. First of all, I guess I will just go over what I have laying here in front of me on the table. And we'll see what happens with that. I will talk a bit about these headphones because these are the survivors. These are the headphones that have stuck around after me having tried everything that's under the sun practically. And why are they here? And I've got 2 extras Bluetooth headphones on the side there. Why are they here? So let's talk about what I have on my table here. Cheers, guys. First of all, you see here in the front, I always forget the name of these. Yeah, the Sony MDR-CD900STs. Now, a lot of you know the Sony is it MDRs? Well, the 7506s. The Andrew Sheps, mixing engineer, talks a lot about using them. They are they have the blue little line here instead of the red line. Very all-round classic professional headphones. Why do I have these here? Well, I saw a video that the DMS headphone YouTuber did on them, and I got really curious about them. So basically what these are One of my favorite things about these is that it says 4 digital on them. You won't be able to see this, but it says it here, 4 digital. Now, that's just beautiful. Why is that? These were designed in, I think, the 80s or something, when the CD started coming around. I actually have a CD player from the 80s here, old Philips, one of the first CD players that was ever made. Beautiful CD player, bought it here in Paris. I'm very happy with that one. What these are, how these differ from the Sony 7506s is that they're more mid-range focused, I feel. I have to say, when I talk about mid-range bass and treble, I've also learned over the years that we all have kind of different perceptions of where does the mid-range begin and end, where does bass begin and end, and where does treble begin and end. That's one big tip I can give you if you hear other people talk about headphones. This is something I really respect about the headphone show guys, because they try to get some consistency into the world of measurements and reviewing and stuff like that. Whether or not I agree always with their takes personally, like with their personal takes on headphones, I really respect and appreciate what they're doing, trying to get consistency in a very subjective thing, because ears are so different and how we perceive sound is so different. You might be hungry, you might not have slept well, you might have this or that, and sound changes completely. So for me, these have exceptional mid-range quality. These are like, what, $100? You need to import them from Japan because they are only sold in Japan, and in a lot of Japanese studios they still use these very widely. I don't know why the wonderful Japanese people are keeping these to themselves as they do, but they are absolutely worth importing. One of the most beautiful things about these, because they're cheap, but spatiality, and by spatiality I don't mean a big sound stage in headphones, I mean the ability to perceive front to back, and like how far away is something, and timbre qualities of sounds. These do exceptionally well for a headphone of this price. Frigging incredible. And they are easy. I can just put them in anywhere and they always sound the same because they are cheaper headphones. They don't reveal as much, so they give their own vision on things. Now, I'm not much of a purist, I think, or maybe I am actually. Yeah, actually I think I am. But when I was younger, like a year younger, I'm 30 now, when I was 29. Now, like up until last year, I was always pushing and looking for the highest quality thing that I could get. So I ended up with a system that I worked on a lot over 2024 when I was still producing on the computer. Nowadays, I produce everything. If you watch my other YouTube videos, I only make live electronic music, like using analog synths and analog mixers. It's all analog and in the moment with knobs. But when I was still working digitally, I think I got the most kind of possible reference system that you can get in headphone world. I had the Audeze LCD5s, very, to my perception, balanced headphones, I should say. Getting flat headphones is very hard. There's people talking about this, but it's incredibly complicated to get really flat frequency response headphones, like you have speakers that are flat frequency response, because it's right up to your ear. It changes a lot of things. So I had a setup with the LCD5s, the Zaehl HM-1 amplifier that I have here, and I used the Chord Dave as my DAC, and when I was mixing, it has a lot of latency, the Chord Dave, so when I was producing, I usually used my Prism Titan that is on the floor here. And because the HM1 is also a mixer amplifier, I could put in the two different sources, the Prism and the Dave, and I could switch between if I needed the latency or precision. So that was really like a 25,000 euro top of the line setup. It doesn't get much more clean headphone world than that. It was very impressive as a frame of reference, but I let go of the Chord Dave, I kept the HM1, I let go of the LCD5s because being on top of Mount Olympus, I realized there was too much silence there. It was too perfect. It was too much of a massive clean window into audio world that I was making bad decisions with my mixes. I could have gotten better at learning it. That's how every system works as well. You live with it and you learn and you hear your mixes being played on speakers, for example. And then this is a very important tip that Andrew Sheps gives, mixing engineer. If you have your reference system, whether it's headphones or speakers, it doesn't matter. If you have your main mixing system or creation system, okay, mix on it, work on it, do your thing. And then if you go check, if you have your second opinion, if you play it on some speakers, on the car system, on AirPods, which I use a lot as well. If you listen back on another system and you hear something that, you pick up on something, like the problem I had with the very Mount Olympus setup. The problem I had was that I was adding too many details, too many moving parts, because the system could handle all of that. I could still hear everything so clearly. When I listened on a worse system, it was way too much going on. It wasn't as simple as I would like my music to be. So what Andrew Sheps says, if you then hear that mistake, if you hear the thing that has gone wrong, don't fix it on that second opinion system. No, go back to your reference system and listen on that reference system the mistake you've picked up on, and can you hear it on your reference system? And then using your reference system, adjust and then do your second opinion again, but only adjust using your reference system. That is one of my biggest tips I can give to any reference system, whether it's speakers or headphones. So yeah, these are the opposite of the top of Mount Olympus, the Sony MDR-900 ST, CD900STs. They are a bit lo-fi, but they are very consistent still. And what I like about them, because they don't do detail as well, they do front to back very well. And that's very important to me. But because they don't do detail very well, you cannot make your productions as complex. And this is where, for me, dynamic drivers really shine. Dynamic drivers, which is this is a planar magnetic driver, also the Yamaha YH5000 here, also planar. Planars are incredibly, I would say, I wouldn't call these clean. The Audeze planars, the professional or like the flatter, more neutral ones, are very clean, and they give great separation. But this is one of the most interesting things about my experiences with headphones, and I think the same happens with speakers, but I've had this with headphones. So whatever headphone I pick to work on changes the outcome. Of course, that sounds very obvious, but it has more impact than you think it might, because when a headphone emphasizes the bass a bit more, people often say when a headphone emphasizes the bass more, then you might start adding too little bass to compensate for the headphone bringing more bass. Well, actually, for me, it's been the opposite way. When a headphone focuses, that's what I call it, focuses more on one specific frequency range, like the bass range, I end up putting more detail in that frequency range. You get what I mean? So it's like, because that is where it zooms in on, that is where it has the most information. So it's then in that region that I start putting the most information, because that is what I hear the most clearly. So that is why I really enjoy, what I like about the MM500s, for example. They are not too detailed like the LCD5s with my Chord Dave setup. They do let go of some of the hyper detail, but they have a very neutral frequency response. They don't bring out one area more than another area. So that means that it means that I naturally don't focus more on one area. I guess you could say that they focus a bit more on the mid-range, and that's actually a nice thing, because what I've noticed is that when I've made complex electronic music or whatever, especially using vocals and samples, when because the focus lays more on the mid-range in these things, for some reason, with these, it's been so that when it got too congested in the mid, or like, I wanted to keep that area clear. So that is where I had the most information. So that's what I focused on. So that is where I built the mix kind of around, where the most clarity is. And what's nice about things that focus more on the mid-range, for me at least, is what every mixing engineer say, or like a lot of the great mixing engineers say, the mid-range is where the heart of it all lies. That is where we are most sensitive. That is where all the information lies. Bass, yes, there's a lot of lessons in bass. There's a lot of lessons in treble, but I want personally the mid-range to be tight, rhythmic, present, never overbearing, never pokey, but I want it to feel alive. And then the bass, the subregions, the Neumann NDH-20s are friggin' great at exposing the subregions. It really helps that they are a closed back pair. That helps bass perception, I think. But it makes me sometimes on the NDH-20s over-sculpt the low end. It makes me put in too much work in making sure that nothing clashes and stuff like that. Whereas a more mid-range focused headphone, like the MM500s, it allows me to focus more on the lower mid-range, upper mid-range, and really the sub-frequencies. They can just kind of sing and move. They are less in focus, so they just like, okay, I trust that it's okay there, as long as that's also experience. Experience is one of the biggest things in all of this. But so let the low end sing. Make sure that the top end is not overbearing, the low end is not overbearing. Focus on that mid-range and let those other frequencies sing and move, and don't over focus on them. That's what I really like about these, and also I guess these. Now, I think for a lot of people these are still considered very neutral or like flat-ish, the NDH-20s. I think a lot of people consider them boring. Yeah, if I had no other choice to use no other headphone in my life ever, I would pick these. These are the headphones I would pick with me every day. I got them first in 2020, thanks to Z Reviews, Zeos, frigging amazing. Before that, I was working on the Sennheiser HD600s, the classic, the starter headphone, I would say, like one of the all-time classics. And that was great and it was fine, but then switching to the Neumanns in 2020, that changed so much for me. And yeah, anyway, Desert Island headphones. Now, let me take a little sip. Let me check what I've already discussed so far. I have some other headphones laying here as well. For example, the Sony MDR-Z1Rs, I think they are called. I love all these headphone names. So they just slip off the tongue. Why have these survived the cut? Well, these are my relax headphones, or like check the mix on a very different kind of system headphones. They don't give up in detail because they're high-end headphones. They have a lot of qualities to them, but there's the whole perspective is so different on these than on the Neumanns. These are they just give a massive sound, and I've never worked on them. I've never tried to work on them. I have no intention to work on them, and that's actually a very good thing, I think. These are just for size and enjoyment, and a second pair of eyes, and just the comfort and everything. Friggin' amazing. Other high-end closed backs I've used, also the Meze Lyrics, planar magnetics. These are dynamics. Very interesting with the Meze Lyrics. I found them bright and bassy at the same time. I bought them twice, sold them twice again. I, in the end, couldn't really live with them on the long term, but they were very interesting. I've also worked on the Biodynamic DT770s, am I saying that right? Or the 990s, I don't remember. That's what I had before the Sennheiser HD600s. I wouldn't be able to say much about them because that's so long ago now, but I like the HD600s a lot more than those, and now I like the Neumanns a lot more than the HD600s. And most of my work is now done between the MM500s and the NDH-20s. Also, what we have here is the Sennheiser HD800, another absolute classic of a headphone, one of the first high-end headphones of the modern era. Considered to be a bit treble focused and a bit more flat, but this is one of those things. A lot of people call them treble focused, but for me they have one of the most relaxed top ends out of all the headphones I have, like these, and also the Yamaha YH5000s have way more top end and are really zingy sometimes, and I've got sensitive ears for bright frequencies, and the HD800s for me are I think the most relaxed pair of headphones I can listen to. I've tried working on them, and what was funny is that then I started getting results that reminded me of the stuff I made on the HD600s. And that brings home to me the idea that manufacturers tend to have a bit of a house sound to their headphones. And again, perception in audio is so different. This is something I want to hammer home to people. So I showed a mix I did with the HD800s, and he said, "Oh, this mix sound way more smiley face, like way more bass top end and scooped mid range." And I was like, oh wow, to me that's not at all how I would describe that mix that I did with it. But I guess because it's mid-range focused, kind of, that headphone, that then again you start sculpting around it in some way, and you start, I don't know, now I'm contradicting myself. The headphones you use, the system you work on influences so much of the final outcome. I guess one important thing I want to hammer home as well, I don't want to hammer home anything. I want to say how I perceive sound and how I think a lot about how my own perception works, because that's the only perception I know. For me, why I love headphones is that they're also tactile to the eardrums. They are literally like, when I mix, and that is something I lack when I work on planar magnetic headphones. This is very interesting, actually. I guess a lot of headphone reviewers call this a slam factor in dynamic headphones, but with for example, planar magnetics, the sound is here, it's in my brain, I am listening, I can analyze, I can work with it, but it's way less tactile and way less physical, because that driver, it's a big driver, but I think, right, I may be wrong on the detail here, but I think it moves less air. It moves more precisely, but less total actual driver excursion is happening. And when I use the Neumanns and also the Sennheisers to some extent, but especially the Neumanns, they have quite small drivers, so pretty rigid little things, I believe. And also everything I say, I have done a lot of research just as a hobby, so I think I know quite a lot, but I might be completely out of, I might be saying some absolute nonsense. But I believe they have quite small drivers, the Neumanns, and they have a tactility to them that is unrivaled for me. The way the high end, the way the low end, the mid-range, everything, the way the driver moves and also reacts to different amplifiers, that's a whole other story. But I mix in a tactile way. It's not only listening and analyzing what you hear, but it's like physically feeling with your eardrums how is the movement? What do I feel? Is the high end tickling my eardrums? Is the low end pushing through nicely? Is it piercing? Is it hurting me in some way? Then maybe turn down the volume. Those things, dynamics absolutely excel at for me, especially mid-range focused dynamics. And planar magnetics don't do that in the same level for me. And that is something that I have a harder time with switching now, because I had sold my MM500s, and then I got the LCD5s, then I sold the LCD5s, and now after all year working on the NDH-20s again, when I had my Christmas break, I was like, okay, I'm very happy with what I'm getting out of my trusted system, but I kind of miss this real neutral reference point that for me the MM500 and the LCD5s by Audeze do really well. So I got them again, and now, as I said, I work between those two. So HD800s, massive soundstage. Everything sounds wide and big, and it's I use it mostly to play video games and relax and hang out. And yeah, same with the Sonys, but the HD800s for me, and I think again that says so much about individual preference and individual experience, they are the most relaxed headphones to sound and listen to in the world. Now that brings me to my Yamaha YH5000s. Extremely expensive headphones. And I bought them in Amsterdam, in Headphones Auditions Amsterdam, run by a German guy, Stefan. And absolutely, if you're into headphones and if you live anywhere close to the Netherlands, or if you're in Amsterdam at some point, please go by Stefan, go see him, hang out there. And he has everything in high-end headphones, mid-range headphones that you could dream of. It's a beautiful space. And if you're curious about something, if you've watched online reviews of something and you want to hear it, you can go there, you can just listen, and he will talk about it with you. You get a coffee, and he's just happy to have you there. And he will always make sure that you leave thinking you want something else than you thought you actually wanted. And that is not because this is actually a funny story. I think sometimes you think with him like, wow, he's the most sneaky salesman in the business, but no, he is not. He is really just, that is him. He's just like, he built his business around his own hobby and taste and passion. And so when he says like, I think you should get this, it's not because he is trying to upsell you, but because you resonate with the same things that he resonates with. And he sees that you care. So he's like, well, if you care about this, you probably care about this. And then you're like, well, hot diggity damn, you're right. And this is the dangerous thing. Like, I say dangerous as a funny way because I love it. Once you have heard what is over the horizon, once you set that step into a new level of sound quality, whether it's a converter, an amplifier, or a headphone, you're like, okay, wait, so that is possible. Then going a step back is one of the hardest things there is. Anyway, Stefan is one of the best guys I know in audio. So please, if you're in Amsterdam, go to Headphones Auditions Amsterdam. I bought those when I went there the first time. I tried out so many things. I had budget, and that is something he asks as well. What's your budget? And he will try to work with you on that. And you might end up going over it because that's how it goes. The YH5000s are so interesting. First of all, I'd seen them online. I think they're the coolest looking headphones I have ever seen. Like, okay, look up a picture, Yamaha YH5000s. They are the coolest headphones I've ever seen. They're comfortable, and they're from Yamaha, who has been out of the high-end headphone business for a long time, and now they're back. They are one of the first people who started with planar magnetic drivers in the 70s or 80s, and now they were back. It's a special headphone. It's got its own sound signature. It sounds so alive. It can be very bright. It can be piercing sometimes. It does an interesting thing where if you push too high SPLs, the driver goes too far out and you get intermodulation distortion where the bass frequencies start messing up the high frequency. It's like the same sound when you overdrive a tube circuit, or if you're a music producer, if you have a full range track with a big kick drum and hi-hats, or a big bass and a lot of top end content, if you then put like a Fab Filter Saturn with a tube preset on the master and then turn that up, then you hear how that low end vibrates that top end. That is intermodulation distortion, and that one gets it when you push it up a bit too much, which makes it hard to work on those things, because when I'm working on headphones, the volume can vary a lot and you're not always at the headphones for me that I work with need to be able to handle a lot of instant dynamics and a lot of, sometimes something might be too loud and I want to just like, okay, quickly change that. Sometimes I want to put it up just to vibe a bit. and those don't really allow for that. They're very gentle and very warm at the same time, but also zingy. It's like, I don't know, man, they're very special. And I sold my LCD5s because I didn't want to have such an expensive pair of headphones laying around, and I didn't want to travel with it and stuff like that. It lost its practical purpose. But I kept these because they're so unique and they're so beautiful. I don't use them half as much as any of the other headphones that are here, but I don't know, I just cannot let them go. They're so special. They are really their own thing. Yeah. So, do I have tips? Oh, wait, tips maybe later. One of my main secondary frame of reference headphones are my Sony YH5000-XM5s. Is that what they're called? It's the 5s. It's the noise cancelling headphones from Sony, the number 5s. Very warm sound. Really do their own thing. They are, every time, there are no exceptions. If I've made a song, I've made the song, I've recorded the video, then what I always do is I go sit down on the couch here, my TV is there, I turn on Mario Kart so I can just like 3 inputs just race around, see some pretty visuals, and then I listen to what I did on these, because these are the most together with HD800s, but these are really just like, okay, they give me such a different perspective on what I've just done, and it's really just like, okay, I'm here to enjoy. The HD800s are natural relaxed to me. They sound natural and relaxed. These don't sound natural, but so freaking relaxed. It's like everything's going through syrup and no frequency will ever hurt. So this is like these are ear fatigue headphones. If my ears are tired because I've been working, I put on these and I just like get this enjoyable perspective on what I've just done. Absolutely love these. Also got my T+A solitaires, high-end Bluetooth headphones. They are so fancy, they are so cool looking, and I take them with me when I travel very often. They are not always my favorite sound. They have a very specific sound, but they look good. That's nice. Also when you wear them, and they fold up really nice. They're easy to take with me everywhere. I also got these at Headphone Editions Amsterdam. Really nice headphones for traveling in style. And I also have some in-ears here. That's something I want to talk about. Mix perspective and spatiality with headphones. I've already touched upon it a little bit, but here are the in-ears. They are from Meze. I don't remember the serial number or whatever they called. I literally picked these because I tried out a lot of different in-ears and I wanted something that didn't hurt me or my soul. And these didn't hurt, no matter if I used a high quality source. They're very forgiving in the high end. And one thing that I've had from a young age, when I was 16 already, I started purchasing my music in WAV format, and I was very late to streaming. And when I started streaming, I used Tidal, and that was only because Kanye's Life of Pablo only released there and I wanted to hear it. That's how I got into streaming. I've always cared a lot about high fidelity audio, and I hate hearing artifacts. One thing I don't like, my first tangent after tangent. My first objective with an audio system is like the Hippocratic oath that doctors take: do no harm. I think that I don't want to hear the headphones struggle with something. I don't want the system to be doing anything wrong, and that that's a moving target for anyone. What is wrong? But I don't like MP3 because you can hear the artifacts. You can not in every song, of course, but you can hear the less tight bass. You can hear the kind of not the whistling, but like the you can hear the little blockiness in the top end. It's like it really is. I don't like when people say they are like that, but you know what I mean. But the way I perceive this has a synesthetic quality to it. You know that when you hear it, you see it. I'm not saying that that's how my brain works or whatever, but it really is like video compression, low quality blocky videos on a very low bit rate. You see these little blocks, you see these little in dark scenes, in colorful scenes, grassy scenes with a lot of detail. You see the compression artifacts. I hate that. I can't. Those defects, those faults, I cannot, and that takes away so much enjoyment for me, whether in video or in audio. And MP3 to me sounds like that. And these I picked out of the whole set, out of the whole range, because when I'm on the move, when I'm on the go, you don't always have access to the highest quality stuff, and I need things that are relaxing. And these are very forgiving towards that, towards compression artifacts and stuff like that. I like that. I was going to talk about spatiality, and that's something that is a challenge with headphones compared to speakers, for example. When you work on speakers, at least also depends, everything I say depends also what's your final goal. Do you want to... Nothing is right or wrong, it's just your taste and your final goal and what do you want. And that is something I've also really had to learn. So I started out, this can be what I have a hard time with reviewers sometimes, is that they say a headphone is wrong, but an engineer spent a lot of time thinking about it and had a certain goal in mind. And my whole life I've been like a competent engineer, I should say. My whole life I've been always first assuming that I'm wrong, or like that I have something to learn from this. So if a system created by competent engineers that I trust their craftsmanship, if they've made something and I listen to it and it is not what I expect something to sound like, then I don't assume that they did something wrong, that they made a bad thing. Then I just assume that I have something to learn here, that I have a new perspective to gain on what audio is, how you can look into sound, you learn how that system moves and works. And then years later you can make up your mind whether it's to your preference or not, or already immediately you can make it to your preference. But my preference is competently made things, or useful things, or both. Anyway. Spatiality. My final goal is I want my music always to sound good on a massive system, like the biggest system you can imagine. That is my goal. I want it to sound not muddy, not bad. I want it to sound impactful, massive, and grand on a huge system. It was wild. Tangent alert, if you haven't had enough already. I had a dream a few weeks ago where it almost felt like a vision of what I want sound to be. I came into this massive cathedral and there was like some kind of organ, church organ playing, but it was not the sound of a church organ. It sounded like trumpets, like synthesizers, like an organ, like everything. It sounded like the most grand and immediate and massive, majestic sound I'd ever heard, and that stuck in my brain as like, that is sound, that is what I want my music to do. And that is why I want my things to also sound good on massive systems, because also I've played on massive systems as a DJ, and now I'm doing YouTube videos, but the goal is also to be flexible. I want it to sound good on big open systems. So there's a translation problem there, because systems are speaker systems are in a space, or at a festival, open air, but they are in a space. And the space you are in impacts how those speakers translate what you do, of course, because there's a lot of air moving and all the frequencies are interacting if it's not a treated space. And if it is a treated space, that also impacts, of course. It's just different. It's not better or worse. It's different. It's better for certain things. So working on headphones, I have found that bass has been one of the most challenging things for me, that I would do too much bass, because in these closed back headphones you can do a lot of bass, and because it's such a small contained space, you can get away with a lot more information in the bass. And so when you then put it on speakers, it gets muddy and overwhelming because all of a sudden way more air gets moved, and then you all of a sudden realize, oh wait, now the mid-range is not coming forward at all anymore. That's not nice. So then again, Andrew Shep's lesson, you take a note of that, mental note, you build. I say you in general, but I have a mental map, and I think a lot of audio people have this, a mental map of the sound quality of something. Make a note of that in your mental map and bring it back to your reference system, and then listen back and say, indeed, I hear that there's too much bass, whatever. I think open back headphones are, in a way, it's so double, because at the same time, they can give more space to things, but that can also be the danger because it's more open, because there is no system in the world, okay, maybe in-ears, but open headphones have so little resistance. There is no air clashing with anything else. It's so open, so you can fill up your arrangement with a lot of things, and that can lead to too much information. This is why, again, I love the NDH-20s, the closed back Neumann headphones, because they're closed back, you're still dealing with a small little room on your ears, and because they're dynamic, they're not as separated. When the bass kicks, it impacts how the high end moves as well, because that whole driver has to do the whole thing. It gives some limitations, and it's not hyper detailed. It gives some limitations and an overall like feeling to a bit of a whole more gelled perspective on everything. And so in ears, that is where I lose it completely. Like open back headphones already, I have a hard time getting a sense of how much information do I have, because there is no air resistance. In ears for me, it's it's only detailed. There is no air. There is literally so little air moving, so you can do so much detail, you can put in so much ear music, and it's for me, headphones sit perfectly in the middle between speakers and in ears, where there is some air moving, there is some friction, but it's still a reference thing. And then especially between closed backs and open backs, you get that nice balance. In ears, you lose all reference. To me, that is how it is for me. That is a lot of headphone talk. I think I'm gonna do another video sometime about converters, because I frigging love converters. I really care about converters, and digital to analog, analog to digital. That's a whole other topic. I have many feelings about that. Here I have laying the Chord Hugo, my first proper high-end converter, and I love it to death. It's one of my references as well, and one of my most listened to audio devices I've ever had, I think. And professionally, there's this audio brand Prism Professional from the UK. I love their professional interfaces, and I love them so much that also for my TV system, where I have my Genelex set up, I bought their another one of their converters just to have on my daily listening system, because they are for me really the number one reference of what audio can sound. You can do a lot more with converters, and you can go way deeper. And I've had my Chord Dave, like $12,000 converter. It's gone. It went too far over the horizon. Loved the unit, but it was too much. Anyway, I will talk some other time about converters, I think. Amplifiers, I think I will do another video about amplification in general as well, because what I have to say about amplifiers also goes in a lot about preamplifiers for microphones and stuff like that. But in short, amplifiers matter. They make a big difference to what your headphones do, depending on a lot of factors. If you're curious about DACs, about amplifiers, watch the videos that Golden Sound did for the headphone show, I think, or on his own channel. I think on the headphone show. He's been doing some great videos about just explaining the whys and the hows. Oh, sorry, getting a call. Excuse me, we're live, baby. Amplifiers really matter. I do not recommend if you work on headphones, unless you're starting out. I started out using the headphone outputs of my MacBook, producing of my PC. I use that. In short, if you want a nice amplifier, professional one, go to Lake People. That you will not be disappointed. Already a lot of interfaces have quite alright headphone outs, but you will notice the difference, the step up as soon as you switch from using a laptop output to like an audio interface headphone output. You already be like, oh wow, I hear so much more. And that has to do with amplification, that has to do with conversion, so much. Those things matter. And you know, also I can say a lot about these things, but if you care about these things, you will be like me. You are already looking into these things and you're looking it up. If you guys like me talking about these things, I'm sorry for the whole ranting and rambling in this video. I just wanted to open up this conversation about headphones, and I have so much experience with all these things. Like, again, I think I sit in a pretty special place where I care really much about high quality sound, and I go to extreme lengths to learn about it, achieve it, and then also compromise again. Like, okay, I've been over the hill, now I can go back and I can live without the Chord Dave. I swear I can. And yeah, because I know what I'm compromising on. I have so many thoughts about this. I'm professional. I've worked with this. It's my whole sound life, pretty much. Speakers are secondary. I just want to tell you all, like, if you have questions about headphones, I have so many recommendations or things you could think about when it comes to headphones. Also recommendations, as I said, because your heads are so different, your just how it gets calculated in your brain is so different. So one recommendation will never work for everybody, but I will say this, if I had to recommend one thing to everybody, it would be the Neumann NDH-20s. Like, they have helped me so incredibly much, but that's also just because it's me. Also, one thing with closed back headphones, they put you in this audio world without anything else around it. That is what I really love about closed back headphones. You go into that world. There's nothing else. It's easier to pick up on reverb tills, on effects and stuff like that with closed backs, because you don't have the ambient noise around you, no matter how quiet it is around you. I have a really quiet apartment here in Paris, but it's still, maybe it's just me, that goes for everything I say in this video, maybe it's just me, but with closed backs I am able to enter this immersive world. And again, for me that really works, because I make music. I want to create dream worlds in my music. I want to transport you to a different universe with my music, so that really works for me. But hey, maybe you're more into organic music, like classical or jazz, then maybe some neutral open backs are more suitable. Then I would recommend something like the HD800s, because they have an organic sound. I think planar magnetics don't do an organic, a natural sound as well as dynamics. They are way more, just different. I think, dynamics are more organic than planars. This is just to start the conversation and to share some of my experiences. Maybe in the future I will do a more in-depth video about specific units or things, and maybe about amplification and conversion. I wanted to talk about headphones, and here we are. I talked about headphones, and I hope that there's some useful stuff in here for people. I have said a lot. Thank you guys for watching. Let's talk about headphones. All right. Thank you. Cheers.